That one person does make a difference. We often think that, these massive corporations are too big to challenge, but that's not true. Corinne is making a major impact. She's got them worried. And I believe that the lesson that we take from her is that because she's been tenacious enough and courageous enough to actually stand up and challenge these people, she is helping to save people's lives. So I believe we owe an enormous debt of gratitude to people like Corinne. So thank you very much, Corinne. Thanks for making it. And obviously, we'll have the opportunity at the very end of the day. We've just got two more presentations for you today. The next speaker, he doesn't need to be introduced. We all know Brian. But I think I just want to make a few comments because I met Brian just on 2 years ago, and at that time Brian had been doing his research for about 3 years. And again, this is a classic example of where one man can make a difference, or one lady can make a difference. It's a direct consequence of Brian's work and his enthusiasm for finding out the truth that he has brought to us together. He's brought to us a great deal of information. And in many ways, Brian has been the catalyst for all these other groups as well. He brought together John Harris, who's out there doing his bit, and a lot of other people in the truth movement, so on and so forth. And certainly he's helped to bring me onto the stage, and I'm now doing my bit. And what I am doing, I'm going to sort of give you an update on what's happening in the courts, where we're starting to push the courts back. But before I give you that insight, what I'd like to do is I'd like to ask Brian to come on the stage and bring us up to date with the battle, as it were. So welcome, Brian Gerrish.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Roger always gives me the afternoon slot when it's hot and the day's wearing on, so I'm going to just try and get you a bit... do you want to stand up for 2 minutes? I won't do the stand up, sit down, stand up, because that's for schools. But stretch your legs a bit, because I know what it's like. Right, okay, well, perhaps a bit unusually for me, I actually think things are going extremely well at the moment. And it's a very strange thing, but if you talk to the people who are active, maybe doing it every day, but they're out there doing as much as they can, there's a report, there's a feeling beginning to creep over people that something has changed. Instead of you feeling as though you're pushing a huge rock up a slope and it never really moves very much, we're now getting the impression that people are beginning to see things. So some of the differences we're noticing are that we're getting whistleblowers coming forward, and this is extremely encouraging. I can tell you that Robert Green, who you know has been campaigning for Holly, can't say too much about her because I've been gagged, but I might tell you a bit. He was approached recently in a particular location by a police, I'll say officer, although I know that has connotations. But the person concerned walked up to him and he thought, what's going to happen here? And then he was surprised that the police officer stopped in front of him, put out a hand and said, you're Robert Green. And I'd just like to tell you that what's going on at the moment is nothing to do with our police force. And basically, that police officer shook his hand, and Robert said that was something that was absolutely fantastic, because of course what it told him at a stroke was that there are perfectly good people out there in the police force, and it's obvious that some of them not only know what is going on around the Holly Gregg case, and I imagine further afield, but they are not prepared to put up with it. So I think that was a wonderful sign that the truth is beginning to spread out there. And it is an important thing that we don't look at any particular organisation or each and every organisation and say that the people in it are all bad, because that is absolutely not true. Most people are still good people, but we have people who are duped into doing things which are wrong, and we also have people who simply do not know what they're doing. The people we are after are the relatively small number of people who stay hidden because they like doing their dirty work in the shadows. So we know the police are waking up. I'll just say I'm really talking about our UK column office in Plymouth, but we're getting calls from people in the NHS, we're getting calls from social services people, we're getting calls from NLP, neuro-linguistic practitioners, and they are saying that they're seeing things, they're also concerned, and they're also talking to their colleagues. And that's happening with people in the media, it's happening with newspaper reporters. So the newspaper reporters will tell you they know what's going on, but they'll also say we can't get the stories past the editor or the editorial board because that's where the censorship is taking place. But if you look at the papers, there's a weird mixture now between pure comic. Some of the papers are equivalent to comics now, but then amongst the cartoons and the rubbish is an article where suddenly somebody's talking serious stuff. And one of the articles I know that came up recently in the Mail, I can't remember who wrote it, but it was talking about the fact, did the Soviet Union disappear? What had happened to all the journalists and media people? They'd disappeared or been murdered. So people are picking up that there's serious stuff afoot, and the whistleblowers are the people that we need to give the real evidence of what's happening inside organisations. We need the whistleblowers, we need their evidence, and of course when they come forward, the thing we can do is be nice to them. We can reassure them, we can encourage them, because they are going to be the people who help clean up their own organisation. If you say, who is going to clean up the police are. Who's going to sort out hospitals? Doctors are, and the nurses. So the people are in position, but they've got to be given the ammunition, and that's the knowledge and the know-how to do the job. But overall, last 5 months, you see a difference. There's a difference in audiences. And one of the things that is quite clear now is that the average age is coming down. When we were doing this sort of 5-6 years ago, most of the audiences were more mature people. And now we can do a talk like the one in Bournemouth a couple of weeks ago, where over half the audience must have been about 24, 25. And that is excellent, because that means the information is circulating around a whole different sector of society. Okay, so it's going well. What is making the difference? The hard truth. And Corinne's just given you some hard truth, and it's horrible, isn't it? She didn't tell you about Nutella, which she told us about last night. You know, the chocolate spread Nutella? My children used to live on that, almost. Well, not quite. So it's not nice knowing some of the things, but we've got to know, because then we can tell other people. Personally, I believe there is nothing beats the issue of children. If we cannot protect our children, we don't have a future. And what's starting to happen is more and more and more stories about children are coming into us, and that's children being snatched. I've been in and out of the room because we've been assisting a lady over the last month and a bit. She ran away from the Isle of Wight in order to stop her 10-year-old daughter being taken by Isle of Wight Social Services. Why? Because the girl had started to talk about sexual abuse, who was abusing her. There's a trail of cover-up from the police to social services. Having taken the girl first to Spain and then to Gibraltar, Isle of Wight Social Services, obviously desperate for money, flew a team of 3 out there. There was a judge, probably specially appointed, to deal with the case, and they spent a packet to take the girl away from the mother, which they have just done. The mother has no idea where the girl is. She hasn't spoken to her for over 4 weeks now. She's very worried about her safety. And yesterday, the mother's bank account, which is her fighting fund, has been frozen. Since she's not committed any offence, that is an offence in itself. So I can tell you that, never mind Holly Gregg, and I don't say that in any light-hearted, dismissive way, these cases are coming to the surface now where the state is stealing children. And we need to get this out into the public domain, because it is only mass publicity that's going to deal with these people. They are breaking the law, they are forging documents, they are committing perjury in court, they are using psychiatric reports by psychiatrists or psychologists who have never ever met the children or the mother, and that's in breach of the British Psychological Association rules anyway. And we've now also started to encounter psychologists who are themselves members of what are blatantly New Age cults involving neurolinguistics. So we've got some very dangerous combinations actually coming into place. Now, Anne and Holly Gregg having a very rough time at the moment. I am not allowed any more to tell you any more about the case. I've been gagged. So what I can ask you is why you think I might have been gagged. Why would the establishment want to gag public knowledge about what is happening to a Down syndrome girl and her mother? Pardon? I'm telling the truth. Thank you. Is there any other reason why the state may want to gag us? Yeah, it's simple, isn't it? The dirty deeds are done in the dark. And that is what it is all about. So we know whether it's Dunblane or whether it's torture, the moment the state covers up, the moment the inquiry is not in public, we know that there is something to hide. It's very easy. And the brilliant Canadian gentleman with the cap, I think we should all get one of those caps. The one thing I think he'd missed, or maybe he said it later, but of course whatever the court was, it should be freely open to the public, so that other members of the public can sit there and actually see what is being discussed and see justice being done. So we've got another case now, the Gibraltar lady. I can't give you her name, but we have reported on it in the UK column. It is up on the website. The Gibraltar press have now picked up on it. The Isle of Wight press are interested because they're now miles behind the game since they haven't printed anything. But we already know that certain individuals are being warned off. We had an interesting conversation in the UK column office on Thursday, I think it was, with Charlie Veitch from the Love Police. How many of you know the Love Police? If you haven't seen any of their videos, just put in Love Police into Google and you'll see Charlie basically applying common sense and common law to the police. But it's done in a light-hearted way because they love police. And it's been very effective. But he went over to Canada for G20 talks, was arrested and banged up in a holding facility, and we asked him if he'd give us a call and talk to us in a bit more detail. Now, we have actually got a clip which he was happy for us to play, but I am being a little bit lazy today because I didn't want to do a PowerPoint thing. I'll tell you what he said is he was arrested by the police, he was put in the back of a van, he was driven around Toronto for about 20 minutes, being thrown all over the cage in the back. And then he arrived at what was formerly a film studio. He said you walked into an absolutely vast space, a couple of football pitches inside, and it was simply full of wire mesh cages. And he said he found it very intimidating. He was strip searched 4 times, orifices checked. He was questioned intently about who he was, who his friends were, what organisation he was part of, where the weapons were stored. And then he was held for 15 hours in his shorts and T-shirt in a highly air-conditioned building, so he was freezing most of the time.